I'm deeply honored that you've invited us to be here and that we're here to cooperate and to talk about all the challenges that we face in Europe as well as in the United States.
All around the world.
All around the world. Would you like to tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
who
so
you see?
so through a whole network of people that are in the world of politics, in the world of really true journalism, and other activists around the world who get involved in all the things that are going on. Thierry and I met, and we were blessed to have him come to. This is our 22nd Reawaken America tour, and we're here in Miami at the in this case at the Trump Doral Resort. So that's why we're together here. The situation globally, and particularly affecting the Dutch, and I think the Dutch have been sort of telling us very, very publicly what was coming, because I think what you guys found, what I saw through a lot of the things that you were doing, in your parliament and the speeches that you gave and the various people that we know, you really were sort of warning us in a lot of ways about what was going to happen. And for those of us that have been following this very closely, and I have been for decades, if not certainly the last few years, we are facing I call it kind of globalism versus humanity. When you look at the world from my American perspective, it's globalism versus Americanism, and we do see a clear threat to our very survival as a nation, to our constitutional republic, and to our way of life here in America. We have a couple of thousand people out here in this venue. We've had over 1 million people online today, and whenever we do these Reawaken America, it's a movement. I call it a movement. Whenever we do these things, we get huge turnout, and most people, and it's probably the same in your country. Most people, they want to know, what can I do? What can I do? Right?
Absolutely.
And I think that what we try to do out here, what we try to do in these events, is we try to give people options. And one of the things that I say is, I use this phrase, local action equals a national impact, right? So if you get involved in your community, in your local level, at your local town or your local city or where you're at, and I know scale matters when we're talking about your country versus the United States, but it still matters in your own hometown, what you do. And what you do matters. What you physically do on a daily basis, whether it's you're getting involved more in your local community, whether you're getting involved more in your local schools with your children or your own national government. People have been very complacent, and the complacency is global. This global complacency that has set in, where I call it, the way I believe it is I see a sort of a moral decay of societies, because we're so turned on by movies and all these other things that change and influence and shape the behavior of ourselves, and particularly our children. And I think one of the dangers that we have is we have allowed that to seep into our own sovereign culture, right? And you have a sovereign, beautiful sovereign nation, a beautiful country, and beautiful people, strong people. I mean, you have some of the best farmers in the world. I mean, in the world, I would say you're on par. I mean, I'm going to speak for America, because I think America. I've been to Iowa, and I think we got great farmers in our country. But honestly, you guys have an amazing ability to feed the world, right? Just through your own ability to produce and to work hard. So you have a beautiful culture. That's just one of the aspects of your culture and of your country. And you have always been very strong, independent, sovereign people. And you have the idea of freedom and democracy at your core. That's what we have here. We want our sovereignty. We love our sovereignty. We love our freedom. We want to have these other countries that are around there that have the same values to be the same way. And to just stand up for your freedom, stand up for your culture, stand up for your sovereignty, stand up for the leaders that matter and the leaders that are standing up for you. Because there are people like me, like Terry, that are sort of at the pointy end of the spear, right? We have these international and national platforms, and we are here to basically push that message forward. But we need to know that there are people behind us, right? Yeah. There's an electorate, right? There's a Dutch electorate, there's an American electorate that are behind us that are saying enough is enough. We have had enough. We are not going to put up with this takeover of this globalist network of, frankly, not very many people. It's the World Economic Forum. It's all these world organizations like the World Bank, World Trade Organization, World Health Organization. I mean, look at what we've learned about what the World Health Organization did to the world, right? And they did that on behalf of sort of their clientele, right? Their clientele being big pharmaceutical companies,
Definitely.
being other governments, being other corporations that were benefiting financially. And the last thing, and I'll shut up. The last thing is that because people always ask me, why do they do this? These are people that already have all kinds of money, they have a lot of wealth, and they already have a lot of power. What do they want? And I tell them very simply, they want more wealth and they want more power, and they want more power over your lives. And they want to be able to control your lives. And so while I'm on this planet, and I have children and grandchildren, while I'm on this planet, and I served in the military in the United States Armed Forces, for almost 3.5 decades, and many, many years in combat. And I'm a warrior at heart. And I'm just not one to give up. I'm not one to quit. And, my family, we use the phrase, fight like a Flynn. And so for all the Dutch and all the people that are looking at this and paying attention to what Thierry Baudet is doing, he's doing this really on behalf of you. I mean, he's over here because we want him to tell us the message that, because I can stand here all day in front of a couple of thousand people and tell them, the tough changes and the societal changes that are going on in Europe. But to have a European here and someone who represents a beautiful, sovereign, independent, free country still today, to be able to say that in a very powerful way as he did earlier this morning, we really appreciate that. And it really gets the message across in an even bigger way. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I just wanted to add, because one of the things that the mainstream media, of course, is doing is give a lot of people the impression that, our criticism is isolated and marginal.
Right.
And the important thing for me of being here and seeing the massive crowd showing up and finding so many like-minded people, and that's also what I want to convey to the audience, is we're not alone. There are so many. This is a global movement.
Yeah.
We, from the Netherlands, it's Forum for Democracy. In America, it's your movement. In in Germany, it's this. And we need to connect because and show the world that there's so many like us, because that's how they.
I'm going to use your book.
Well, wait,
This is a
sure.
book. I'm going to use it. I'm going to shamelessly promote Terry's book, The COVID Conspiracy. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, this COVID conspiracy, because this was designed to do exactly what you just described.
You would know because you've been the head of the military intelligence.
I've been in the world of information operations, intelligence operations, psychological operations, behavioral manipulation, all these different things. The idea was to isolate us, divide us, and then to conquer us. Okay, so if you want to put it into military terms, it's isolate your enemy, divide them. Right? Divide them up, because when they're a divided force, they're much easier to attack. They are much weaker, and then conquer them. And so that's what the globalist system did through this COVID conspiracy. And you talk a little bit.
Locked in our houses.
Shut down the churches, shut down your
Schools.
businesses, schools, locked away. Everybody's masked up. You don't even know who you're talking to anymore. And they made it as though the entire world was going to, die if we didn't follow their rules. When we kind of knew right away, but then we learned that it was one big fat lie. It was a big lie. And it's sad because, I never ask people whether they took the vaccine or not. That's none of my business. And I tell people it's none of your business if they ask me. But what is my business, and I take this very seriously, is when I see an assault on humanity, because this is my world, okay? You didn't get to the levels that I got to as running one of the largest intel agencies in the world and rising to the level of a national security advisor for a president of the United States, unless you have a sense of responsibility and a sense of ownership to really help others, right? I mean, that's what service is all about. So not only your book, The COVID Conspiracy, but it's what they did. They isolate, divide, conquer. Yeah. That's what their intent was, and it damn near worked. And in many cases, like you just rattled off some of the European nations. In many cases, it worked, and it still is working to a degree. In this country, in the United States of America, they tried it, and fool us once, right? Shame on me. Fool us twice. Shame on you. So right now, we're not going to be fooled again, and they know it. And so now they got to come up with something else, right? What that something else is it another health scare? Is it something like we're seeing in the Middle East? Is it this constant noise about Ukraine and Eastern Europe? I mean, I've been at this too long, and I know too much about what's happening. And when I look and analyze and critically think about what it is that we are up against and what we're facing, I mean, again, these are scenarios that I can go through in my head, and I talk about these many times when I'm out and about, talking to different people in different groups about the type of war that we are waging. I call it fifth generation warfare, fifth generation warfare, and it's very, very important to understand that, because even in fifth generation warfare, which is a combination of hybrid, unconventional, irregular, a lot of information operations. It's a war of narratives, a war for your mind. When we talk about that, a lot of people just goes right over their heads. And what I would like to be able to say to your listeners and to the audience is that, look, I would love it to go over your heads. I don't want you to have to worry about this, but you have to worry about it, because there is an assault on the Dutch sovereignty, on your freedoms, on your way of life. And the challenge is because of the various different forms of government. I mean, we're having problems in this country right now. And we probably, like a guy named Churchill years ago, during all the times that we were fighting over in World War II against the Nazis, one of the things that Churchill used to talk about with democracy was the worst form of government, but it's the best thing we got, right? I mean, in other words, so we have a what appears to be a very chaotic form of government, but it's because people are engaged. Well, we're having a tough time right now because we have a government that owns the levers of power, right? Particularly the justice system and the rule of law, what they're doing to guys like Trump and what they did to people like me.
Lawfare.
All total lawfare, all based on lies and deception and what in the world of psychological operations you would call projection, right? Projection. I project on you what I actually believe, right? So the left wing of the United States, in the United States of America, which is much larger than I think most people want to believe, they constantly tell us what we are, who we are, name calling, racists, or whatever they want, whatever word of the day that they want to choose. But actually, it's them that represent all of those different negative things. And for us, we have to stand tall. We have to, what I would say, we have to maintain the moral high ground. Okay, we have to maintain the moral high ground. We maintain the moral high ground by being smart, by being disciplined, by standing firm on our values and doing what we know to be good and true, right? And because we're dealing with a culture, we're dealing with a soulless, dark culture. Seriously. I mean, if you don't have faith in your life, right? I mean, our country is really built on Judeo-Christian principles and values, and I always tell people we got to be fearless about them. But if you don't have faith in your life, whatever your faith is, if you don't have that faith in your life about something good and great and better than you are, then what do you rely on? You rely on government? You rely on the World Economic Forum? I doubt it. Not for me.
Health officials.
Yeah, health officials. Right. Give me a break.
But
I know how I feel.
The wonderful thing about this is that I feel you are a black swan individual rising to that level. Donald Trump was a black swan, like a unique, authentic person rising to the level of president. In the Netherlands, I hope my party is a black swan as well. That we're honest people, that we're non-political people in the sense that we're not tainted by this system that turns people in government positions into robots that are just executing orders from above.
Yeah, I mean,
They're
what do
just
you want?
following
What do you
the
want
system.
in an elected official?
So-
okay, you want honesty. You want
But
authenticity.
it's very rare to
It's
find
very
it.
rare, and you want leadership, and really the best leaders that I've run into, and I've run into a few. Many of them were subordinates in my organization. Many of them, I saw great leaders, that were, if I was the general leading an organization, but I found these other great leaders at lower levels and more junior levels, and I'm learning from them. And what I want out of people, what I want out of the people that are leading me, leading our country, leading the Netherlands, leading the Dutch forward into the rest of this century, right? I mean, we want honest, authentic, strong leaders who are willing to stand on their values, stand firm on their values, but also, are willing to admit that I don't know that, or I made a mistake here, or I did this. What I used to tell young officers or young people, I counsel them all the time, and I would say, you know what? It's okay to make mistakes. Just don't make the same mistake, twice, right? Make a new mistake. Because if you're not making mistakes, you're not making anything. You're not doing anything. So I want leaders, and particularly leaders that are running our country, I want them to be out there doing things for the betterment of our country, the betterment of the citizens of our country. And that's what I want out of you, out of people like yourself. I want to see these young leaders who have the energy and the willingness to take on the system, so to speak, right? Because the system will always, I don't care what country you are on the planet, if you allow the system to take control of your life, the system will destroy your life. And that's what happens in dictatorships, it happens in monarchs, it happens in communist countries, it happens in socialist countries. It happens where power goes to the top. And once power goes to the top and it takes it away from the people, then the people just feel like, they walk around like they're in a daze all the time. And you're not, like I said about your farming abilities, you're not innovative. You stop being innovative. You stop thinking, on your own, and you let the government think for you. That will kill a society in a heartbeat.
So that's what we're fighting against.
Yep.
Elections in the US next year. Elections
Yeah.
coming up in the Netherlands on November 22nd.
This November, so next month.
Yes, next
Oh,
month.
it's big. That's big. So here's the last thing I'll say on elections, and then I'll get off the dime here. If you don't vote in your country, and I don't know what the turnout is in your country, I know what the turnout is in our country, and it's not good. The percentages of people who can vote that actually go and vote, right? So I don't know what the numbers are, what the percentages are.
Depends, but
Yeah, but see, but now we're facing, these are not monumental decisions or monumental votes. These are historic changing votes and times that we are in. So it could change the entire direction of your country, in a way that the people of the Netherlands don't want. So you've got to get out and vote. And I mean that. You got to get out and vote. So, you can't go and say, well, I'm not going to go out and vote. Those bums, they're all bums. They're all bums up in the Netherlands. All these Dutch politicians are a bunch of crooks. Well, you know what? Then that's what you expect. That's what you should expect to have back when they come back and they tell you, you know what? We're going to take your farm. We're going to take the machinery that you own. We're going to take your business and we're going to shut it down. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to take your kids because we want your children and we're going to decide what to do with your children. That's what happens in a dictatorship. That's what happens in some of these monarchs. That's what happens in a communist society. So you don't want that, folks. What you want to do is you want to participate. If you have still the ability and the privilege, not just the right, but the privilege of voting in your system of government, which you do, get your ass out there and vote.
and hopefully they'll vote for.
Yeah, that's right. Get your ass out there and vote for Thierry Baudet.
Thank
right?
you very much. Say that again.
Sorry, get your ass out there and vote for Thierry Baudet.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Yep, super.